Just gets worse and worse. Where is Sarah Ferguson now, do you know? Because I've read reports that she's in the United Arab Emirates and broke. I've also read reports that she spent a month at a luxury Swiss resort that cost $25,000 a day. And it's a resort that she has promoted before. Here she is.
The Swiss Alps are famous for hiding the world's wealthiest secrets. For decades, they have been a refuge for billionaires, celebrities, and members of royalty seeking privacy far from public scrutiny. But in 2026, even the most expensive sanctuary in Switzerland could not protect one of Britain's most recognizable former royals from a rapidly collapsing reputation. The £16,000 per day luxury wellness retreat, where Sarah Ferguson once stayed, quietly slipped out of reach. In its place now sits a far more modest reality, a small coastal refuge on Ireland's rugged Atlantic edge. For many observers, the shift feels almost surreal. The woman who once moved comfortably through the gilded halls of Buckingham Palace is now reportedly keeping a much lower profile in a quiet corner of County Donegal. And while the world's attention recently focused on new legal troubles surrounding her former husband, Prince Andrew, the story unfolding around Sarah Ferguson has quietly become one of the most dramatic personal declines in modern royal history.
You often get these trips for free.
How could
I think
Sarah Ferguson do that?
Well, I mean, people are mad. People were upgrading her, giving her freebies, until pretty recently. And in some ways, you think that the spa has got an enormous amount of publicity because of her visit there. So, there's probably some method in their madness. But yes, she's in the Middle East. That's the one place where she still carries some sort of respect. And she's busy trying to get money off various rulers there.
This sudden change did not happen overnight. Behind the scenes, a series of events gradually chipped away at the foundations of the life Ferguson had spent decades trying to rebuild. Frozen assets, severed business relationships, and a wave of damaging revelations from newly released documents combined to create a storm few public figures could withstand. For years, Ferguson had carefully cultivated an image of resilience, the unconventional Duchess who bounced back from scandal after scandal. But by the middle of the decade, even that narrative was beginning to fracture. At the center of the crisis were newly examined communications that cast fresh light on relationships from the past, relationships that critics argued should have been severed long before. When details of those messages began circulating in legal proceedings in the United States, the damage spread quickly through both public opinion and the fragile network of companies, charities, and ventures that supported Ferguson's post-royal career. What had once been a carefully managed personal brand suddenly began to look unsustainable.
Now, in your book, you devote some time to his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, and I just wonder whether she's in danger as a world-class grifter as well, because the emails of Jeffrey Epstein show her acting absolutely appallingly, and not just on the sensational stuff, you're helping to set up meetings between that pedophile and her own goddaughter, for heaven's sake, and also her own daughters, and telling Epstein of another woman that you may marry her too, she's single, she has a great body, okay, well marry me and then we'll employ her. But then again, there's the financial links, with one email from Epstein saying he'd supported her financially for 15 years.
For months, investigators and journalists searched for clues about Ferguson's whereabouts as the controversy intensified. Some reports suggested she had sought refuge in elite European recovery centers known for hosting the ultra-wealthy. These secluded clinics, hidden among the mountains near Zurich, are designed to keep high-profile clients invisible. Yet even there, privacy can only last so long when global media attention begins to close in. Then came an unexpected twist. Rather than remaining inside the protective bubble of Swiss luxury, Ferguson reportedly shifted her base to Ireland, far from the glare of international press hubs. Residents in Donegal were surprised when word spread that a former duchess had quietly checked into a coastal wellness lodge. Compared with the palatial environments she once inhabited, the setting seemed almost shockingly ordinary. The move symbolized something larger than a simple change of scenery. It represented a dramatic fall in both financial freedom and social standing. For someone who had once traveled with elaborate entourages, luxury accommodations, and carefully arranged royal connections, a quiet stay along the windswept Atlantic coast marked a profound change in circumstances. The contrast between past and present was impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, new documents continued surfacing in court proceedings across the Atlantic. Among them were messages dating back more than a decade that revealed just how precarious Ferguson's financial situation had once been. In those exchanges, she reportedly described herself as desperate for stability and even sought employment opportunities during a period when debts were mounting and income streams were uncertain.
Ferguson is a material witness to the sex trafficking, to what was going on in Epstein's home. She was often a regular visitor there, and she should certainly be testifying to the Senate. But there's also HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, should be looking at her. The Companies Act, I think she broke. The charitable laws, charitable things that she broke running a charity.
For critics, those revelations raised difficult questions. They suggested that the line between aristocratic privilege and financial vulnerability had been far thinner than many had assumed. The public image of a duchess moving comfortably through elite society masked a far more fragile economic reality behind the scenes. And once those details entered the public record, the consequences came swiftly. Businesses connected to Ferguson's name began disappearing from corporate registries. Several companies that had attempted to transform royal recognition into commercial ventures quietly shut down operations. To outside observers, it looked less like a gradual retreat and more like a sudden collapse of an entire personal brand. The list of closures read like a catalog of abandoned ambitions. Event companies, investment ventures, and media production entities linked to Ferguson's network were either dissolved or marked inactive. Even charitable initiatives that had once been central to her public identity struggled to survive the wave of negative attention surrounding the new revelations. Perhaps the most symbolic blow came with the indefinite suspension of one of her most visible philanthropic projects, a charity focused on supporting vulnerable women and children. For years, that organization had served as the cornerstone of Ferguson's effort to reposition herself as a humanitarian advocate rather than a controversial royal figure. Its closure marked not only a financial setback, but also a reputational one. Corporate sponsors who had once tolerated a degree of controversy around Ferguson suddenly appeared far less willing to remain associated with the brand. Partnerships evaporated, invitations to speak or collaborate dwindled. What had once been a complex web of royal-adjacent opportunities slowly unraveled. At the same time, the broader York family story was entering another turbulent chapter. Prince Andrew's ongoing legal battles had already pushed the royal household into crisis mode. King Charles III, determined to protect the long-term reputation of the monarchy, made several decisive moves to distance the institution from controversy. Titles were removed, roles were stripped away, and long-standing privileges were reconsidered. For Ferguson, who had remained closely connected to Andrew despite their divorce decades earlier, those decisions had profound personal consequences. The informal safety net that had once existed around the York family was no longer guaranteed. The monarchy itself was undergoing a transformation, one that prioritized institutional survival over individual loyalty. Against that backdrop, the quiet Irish retreat began to take on symbolic meaning. It represented a shrinking world for someone who once operated within the highest levels of global celebrity and aristocracy. Instead of grand charity galas or royal celebrations, daily life reportedly revolved around quiet walks along the coastline and an effort to remain unnoticed by curious observers. For many royal watchers, the question now is whether this period represents a temporary withdrawal or the final chapter of a long and complicated public life. Throughout her decades in the spotlight, Sarah Ferguson has repeatedly demonstrated an ability to reinvent herself. After her divorce from Prince Andrew in the 1990s, she rebuilt her career through publishing, philanthropy, and media appearances. Time and again, she seemed to bounce back. But this moment may prove different. The scale of reputational damage created by leaked correspondence, collapsing business ventures, and renewed scrutiny of past relationships has left fewer pathways for recovery. In an age where public figures are judged instantly and globally through social media and digital news cycles, rebuilding trust can be extraordinarily difficult. And that trust may be the most significant loss of all. Wealth can be regained, businesses can be rebuilt, and reputations can sometimes recover. But once public confidence erodes, especially for someone whose career depends heavily on goodwill and recognition, the road back becomes far more uncertain. Today, somewhere along Ireland's windswept Atlantic coast, the former Duchess of York reportedly lives a quieter existence than anyone could have imagined during the height of her royal years. The palaces, the charities, the business ventures, and the celebrity friendships that once surrounded her have faded into the background of an unfolding story that remains far from over. Whether this retreat marks the end of an era or merely another pause before an attempted comeback is a question only time will answer. But one reality is clear. The journey from royal privilege to personal reinvention has rarely been as dramatic or as unpredictable as the one now associated with Sarah Ferguson.